like even one paper on intelligent design in like a credible journal? Even one, like even one.
Sure.
Oh, really? Oh.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. If you were talking
My question was basically: are there any like even one paper about intelligent design in like a credible?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're in like kind of low impact journals, but they're there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 12 years ago, there were 81 papers in science journals espousing or friendly to intelligent design. Today, there's over 290.
Mhm.
So the number is more than doubled in 10 or 12 years. That number is expected to rise exponentially in the next 20, 40 years.
From what I've read, the reason why they don't get as much, I don't know, whatever you call it, spotlight in the scientific world in terms of like these major publications is because they don't really set out to make novel predictions, right? They just
It's
kind of
just bogus.
describe. Yeah. Okay. Well.
I
Creation
think the
science.
idea is bad. I mean, obviously, if you didn't have common ancestry, that's crazy. But idea itself is okay. And I think what Behe is trying to do with irreducible complexity, I don't think it works, but I think it's like not crazy, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Like it's not crazy like what Neff believes.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an atheist, but I'm trying to. If I was, I couldn't. I don't think I could really help but look around and see, design and intention in biological systems. Now, whatever
We see it everywhere
method,
in biological
yeah,
systems.
yeah, whatever method they use to explain that away, I don't know if that would ever be enough for me to. I don't
What about the appearance, but then like the actual absence or like deflation of purpose?
Yeah, yeah, I guess you could go that route. I
Yeah, I
just don't
used to
know
Man
if
is
think
that would.
constantly Man is constantly mimicking incredible designs in nature to create new technologies. We do this all the time, every year,
Mhm.
constantly. All kinds of things that God has created to design that we mimic, like dry glues have been invented because of studying the feet of geckos, which can walk straight up a pane of glass. The fans that are coming out for computers now have a waved edge to them because we've discovered that it's more efficient airflow, and that was discovered by using the technology of the humps in the backs of whales that actually makes the whale more aquadynamic. They use that same principle to create more efficient fans. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. The uh, the high-speed Shinkansen train, bullet train in Japan, which moves at like 200 something miles per hour. The front cap of that train, the front engine, with the shape of it was designed after the head of a bird called the kingfisher, right? Because of its aerodynamic properties. So they modeled it after that bird, and lo and behold, the train is much more stable and cuts through the air with far greater efficiency. The list of things that we do to mimic the technology found in God's creations is extensive.
Yeah,
We're
did you know that
constantly mimicking.
ChatGPT is actually modeled after Neff's brain?
Jeff, I was thinking about this the other day. I want to know what you think about it. So when people who hold to evolution, and specifically atheists who hold to evolution, right, because they're not going to propose a designer, when they bring up the idea that, hey, well, listen, we have mechanisms to explain how these complex structures came about, i.e., evolution or whatever, and we know what they do, and we know what they're encoded for, whatever, this and that. But when I when I kind of zoom out, I think to myself, okay, kind of going the paleo route, right? If I were to see, let's just use a car. If I were to tell you everything about a car, how it works, what it's made out of, how fast it goes, it takes gas, whatever. I'd give you every fact about that car, and you knew everything about it, how it worked, and what it's made out of. Wouldn't there still be the missing fact that it had a designer?
No, I think that's okay. I mean, it's just that like cars are sorts of things that we know, like the background, we have in the background how they come about. But I don't
Right.
think like that inference is that bad because I used to think that like teleonomy was true. Like it's not really teleology, it just looks like that. But I'm starting to think now that like there is something called teleology, and what it is just a system that performs in a way that maintains itself. So
Mhm.
there's this guy called Martin Terrence, I think. He talks about this thing called a hologenic constraint, and it's kind of like a function that exists when each individual part is being swapped in and out of a system. And what it is just this function that persists over time. And if that function is fulfilled by the parts that are like being swapped out at any of time, right? That's just what we call purpose and
Mm,
teleology.
That's just a
Um,
tautology. That's just saying it looks designed, but it's not. And because nature can do it, we don't know how that's possible, but it did.
mm.
That's all that
Well,
is.
I'm just saying, like, look, if we see a system that like self-replicates or self-maintains, rather,
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
that's
I get
just
it.
like what we're looking at. I mean,
Yeah, but information describes the components are made by
oh
prescriptive
yeah, I forgot.
functional
Information
information.
is immaterial, guy,
They
and
they
also
they
atheists
wouldn't.
can't believe in immateriality
That's
too.
prescriptive functional information is what defines the components, just like uh, the design manuals at Yamaha for the pistons and the valve stems of a R1M. There's a manual for how to
Mm.
make those components and assemble them. That's what DNA does.
Yeah,
Mm.
DNA makes things, sure.
Nature can't produce that.
What's the argument?
It's an immaterial abstract construct that requires the intelligence.
So what's
You,
immaterial
and
about the
this has been
DNA
explained
being
to you 50
trans?
times, but you refuse science.
Well, you just run away. First off, it's not even a scientific; it's a philosophical one. Second,
Um,
what's immaterial about
yeah,
DNA being transcribed to RNA and to mRNA and then
yeah.
translated to
It's
proteins?
been explained to you about 60 times. You just deny
And
the science.
and you just run away, right, when it gets debunked.
No. I've explained it to you. I've explained it to you personally at least
Look,
a dozen
Nephilim, don't have a
times.
stroke, man. Look,
And
I know you
each
got the
time,
knowledge, so
you just deny the science
it's
because you're
not
an
science.
atheist and you don't believe in the immaterial.
Yeah, so like
He's
what's
hardcore
material
materialist.
about DNA, the base pairs, forming a structure such that they can be transcribed into mRNA and then
What's
translated into
material,
protein?
or you meant immaterial?
Yeah, what's immaterial about that?
What's immaterial? Yeah, what's immaterial is the
No.
prescribed
What's
process.
immaterial about the process that I gave you?
That the process is not immaterial. Immaterial.
The process is
No, the
material.
information that prescribes the process, that's immaterial.
Okay, so the information are just the base pairs, right? And the base pairs
This has been
corresponding.
explained to you a dozens of times, Jeff. The words in your book, the meaning of the words printed in a book is not found in the characters. I can take three characters, an O, a G, and a D, and in that order they represent nothing. They mean nothing. But
Mhm,
they exactly weigh 3 grams. Each one weighs 1 gram. I rearranged them so that they spell DOG. Now there's meaning. Okay, but it's not built into the text characters because they weigh the same.
mhm.
They still have the same shape. It's
Yeah.
how they're arranged that represents something that is an immaterial thing. And by the way, a dog doesn't have anything in common with the plastic text characters. See, they
Yeah.
share no
So no,
properties,
that's
right?
yeah.
Because the meaning dog of what that representation means is an immaterial construct. I could use dog or
Gotcha.
switch them around, and it's now it says God, a
Gotcha.
completely different type of thing and of a different category, and yet it's still represented by the same 3 gram
Gotcha.
plastic text
Gotcha.
characters, right?
Gotcha.
So, but Jeff is just in denial of information
Okay, you're
theory,
just gonna speak
information
at length, and then
technology,
you're gonna go into meta now?
because he's a philosophical materialist and he can't accept that anything which is
Alright,
immaterial
can you wrap
actually
it up, man?
exists.
Can you just wrap it up? Okay, so now
Can
obviously
you
the way
just
that
be quiet while somebody's speaking?
so obviously DNA is gonna be different when we just talk about the processes. Now we can label the processes and it's gonna have semantic content, like the way we label arrangement of symbols like DOG and GOD. But the reason why the label or symbol DOG has semantic content is because the mind of the person reading it understands the semantic content they're carrying it with them. So they understand that when there are symbols arranged in such a way, right, because they have a mind and then apply or understand the semantic content there. It's really not that deep, dude,
Great
and it
job.
can be all explained
Yeah,
physically.
that's largely true what you said. Yeah, and that's just that shows that the understanding is not a material thing. It's not a mechanical thing.
Okay, so are you just saying that minds can't be material? What's the argument for that?
No, I'm saying information is immaterial, and this has been explained to you by a lot of
But you
people,
haven't
and
shown
you
that.
just refuse to say.
You're just
No,
gibbering,
I
dude.
I can prove that to you. I can you can receive the information, which you're doing right now, but you're not receiving any mass or matter. So information isn't made of matter. If information was made of matter, then when I read a book to you, it would be necessary that the matter of the book goes into your brain for you to receive the information. But that's not what happens. You
Okay,
receive the information, but the matter that is
it's
the
really
book, the
unfortunate.
paper, glue, and ink doesn't go anywhere. None of it. Not one cork of it
Yeah, so
doesn't
that's
move.
like so that's
So
another
that means that the
okay.
information isn't made of matter because it requires a physical medium in order to be conveyed, but is only because we're in a physical world and we can do nothing without moving matter. Okay, but that
So all
means doesn't make the information made of matter.
you're
We know the
gibbering
information
totally.
isn't made of matter because the book goes nowhere when I read it to
You're
you.
just repeating yourself. Just chill out. Now
No,
look,
I'm
that
just
would be
proving to
true.
you that
That would be
information isn't
true.
made of matter.
Yeah, look, that
Well,
would be
don't. Okay, just a quick question, Neff. Don't you think information needs like, if it isn't matter, right? Doesn't it need like some matter, like a carrier that's matter to carry it
Well, that's
from
what I
one?
just said. You can't convey information in a material world without using a physical medium.
yeah,
But
so
that
like
doesn't make the information
so what
matter.
Neff is
It's not
saying would
made
make
of matter, you
sense.
see. And the proof of that, again, try considering what I'm saying.
Why are you
If
just
I
repeating
read a
yourself?
book to
Like
you,
everybody
you
understands
receive
what
the
you're saying.
information without receiving any matter from the book.
Everybody
Information, if
understands
it were
that.
made of matter, then it would be necessary that the book moves to you for you to receive it. Do you
Okay.
understand that? It's very simple.
That
See?
would make
And that's
sense.
not the case because the information isn't made of matter.
Oh my gosh, you're crazy. Look, that would make sense if you assume some sort of Thomist or Aristotelian metaphysics where the form is an essence. It's a thing that inheres in things, and the way that you receive it, right, is from coming in contact or apprehending the essence. That's kind of what you're baking into the way that semantics
No,
work in a
you're
physical
just
sense.
in
Now,
denial of all
obviously,
information
can you
theory
just chill out?
and
Just
every
calm down,
information
dude.
theorist. That's all.
Just calm down. It's gonna be okay. Now
What
that
Jeff is saying
obviously look, it's
is
gonna be
not
okay, dude.
believed by the
Look,
information theorists
you can
of the
take what
world.
trazodone tonight. You could just
So
chill.
that
It'll be
entire
fine.
field of science is in opposition
So,
to what Jeff
So, like,
says.
so obviously, if like you tried to apply like this method or this procedure on materialism, the one that the Aristotelian holds to, obviously that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to like rub your brain up against a book to get the contents of the book. But
I've
that's not
tried.
how. But that's not how semantic content works in physicalism. It works much differently than that. And I
Well,
was
I've
trying
explained it
to
very simply.
explain.
It's simply a fact that if information were made of matter, information could not be received unless the matter moves, the matter itself, which you claim is the information. So if you claim the book is information, the book has to go. So if information is material, then the material itself has to move, and it doesn't. It's conveyed, transcribed from one medium to another to get to the recipient, right? But if it's a very simple fact. This refutes everything you
This
claim
is
to
like there's got
believe.
to be mental illness. I don't
And
know.
that simple fact that refutes everything you're saying is this simple fact, and I'll just repeat it one more time. If information was made of matter, matter must move from the source to you in order for information to be conveyed, and that's not the case. And that
Okay,
proves
so you're,
information isn't made of matter, and that's all there is to
it's
that.
almost
I'm
like I
sorry.
but your
directly responded to that.
but your
Information,
computer, for instance, doesn't get bigger when you like download like Halo or something.
right, because information isn't made of
Right.
matter.
Oh my god. You don't think computers are made of matter?
Information is not made of matter
Oh,
because, and
hey,
I'll say
Neff,
it again,
that's a really good point. Do you
try
think
try
computers
to
are made of matter?
comprehend what I'm saying. If a book is information, if it contains
He
information,
thinks
and
his
if
copy of
the information
GTA 4
has
is
mass and
material.
dimension, if it's made of a physical substance must move from the source to you in order for you to receive the information. If information is made of matter, you must receive matter from the source. Otherwise, you're not receiving the information. If I have 5 books and each one contains different information. And you want information from book A, right? Matter from book A has to transport to you to receive the information
Actually, I
if
think I might
information
actually
is
agree
made
with
of
that
matter.
almost, what you're saying
But
there.
that's
That's
not
good.
the case. And the same is true of book B, C, D, and E. Okay? Because the matter is not what information is. It's an immaterial thing. And this refutes the atheist arguments for evolution, their whole philosophy, everything about atheism dies because of the fact that information is not made of matter, nor is it a property of
I
matter.
would like to interject here if you don't mind.
Yeah,
So
so
you're saying like what we get and the information that we get from a book is not material. So do you think the sound that you're reading or like their informations that are being transformed or being transported to your brain is not materialistic?
you should stick
You
with the
seem to
example
have to
analogy.
struggle with what I'm saying. It's a very simple concept. Consider if information is made of matter, all I can do is repeat it. It's like it's not going in your mind.
What
If
do you mean by matter?
information
Like
is
atom?
made of matter, okay, then matter, if I have a book and it is information, possesses information, if information is made of matter, matter from the book must move to you for you to receive the information.
No, because the information doesn't
Yes.
have a mass. Like it's not a physics. So basically, so the information that they get
And that
in
means
your brain, they are
information
biological. They are
and
biological.
that
Like they
means
are
information
biological.
isn't matter.
No, of course
If you
it's
can still
biological.
receive if you can still receive the information isn't made of matter if none of the book goes
Look,
anywhere.
Nephilim, maybe you
It's
should
very
learn about
simple.
something called externalism. Okay.
It's very simple.
Externalism is a theory of language and also one of metaphysics. It's how
Doesn't change anything about the
naturalistic or
facts that I've
causal
shared.
theories of reference are built upon. Okay. And there's a whole rich literature for about 50 or 60 years.
None of that
They
changes
talk about
anything that
how
I've
causal
said.
theories of semantic content, right, work. Okay. You don't know what you're talking about. What you're doing is assuming some type of Thomistic or Aristotelian metaphysics
Yeah.
and trying to see if
No,
it works in
I'm sharing
physicalism.
with you facts.
Obviously, it doesn't work that way.
I'm sorry. It's a fact that if
Okay,
information were made
So
of matter, the
okay, you're
matter
just
has to go
you don't
somewhere
know
for you
what
to
you're
receive
talking
it.
about.
Okay.
You have no
Jeff, you
idea.
just burned. I'm just going to say it again.
Burn.
I'll say it
Yeah, go
again.
ahead and repeat it again.
I'll just
Listen,
repeat
you
it
won't sound
again.
crazy this
If
time. Go ahead.
information is made of matter, matter must be transported from the source to you for you to receive it. And that's not what happens because it's not made of matter. It's a simple fact. You can't change this. You
Gotcha.
can't
So that
reason it away.
actually so
There's
what
no
you said
excuse for
there
getting around
there
it.
actually
And
is
that's the way it
matter
is.
being transferred from the source. It's just not the book
No,
itself. So
no,
when you look
none
at
of the
the
book.
book,
Exactly. It's not the book.
can
There
you
we go.
chill out. When you look at the
Got it.
book, there is matter being transferred from the book.
No,
The light bouncing off of it goes
no,
into
that's
your
not the book.
eyes, and your eyes,
That's
right,
not matter from the book.
take can you just chill out?
No, you
Just
made a
calm
mistake.
just
I'm trying to
just
help you
calm
understand.
down. I
The
told you it
light
wasn't matter from
reflecting
the book.
off the
I
book is
know,
not
that's
the
what my
matter
point
of the book.
that was my
Sorry.
point. I agree. That's what I said. You just need to calm down.
There you go.
You are,
So
but there is a physical material interaction within
information
the
is
book.
conveyed by a
And
physical medium.
that interaction is what's supposed to ground semantic content under a physicalist theory of semantic content. Now, if you
Yes.
have some kind of like principal objection to a view like that, I'm glad to hear it. But when you assume what you're assuming is that like there's some type of mystical essence, information essence in the book, and the way you apprehend it is to like interact with this essential mystical essence thingy. Well, that's just not what a physicalist believes in. That's Aristotelian
So
universals.
you shot yourself in the foot. You did. You said light that reflects off the book if you're going to read it and receive the information. Exactly. The light is not the book. You're so dumb.
but
So
if
the
we're
way
going to think, but if we're going to think about it, those
You're so
information
dumb.
that you get from the book are transported throughout a medium to your brain. So
The
basically,
book
your
doesn't
eyes
go
look at the
anywhere.
book. The
So
book
long as
doesn't
the
go
matter
anywhere,
of
but
the
your
book.
eyes goes everywhere. Your eyes following the books. So because it follows the books, it will create chemical
Yeah.
neurotransmitters. And
Neff,
those
yeah,
chemical
yeah.
neurotransmitters, they are basically having a
You're
mass.
just
They have a
talking about the
mass.
medium. You're talking about the medium through which
Yeah,
the information is
Neff,
conveyed.
I have a
You're not
question.
yeah,
talking
and the
about the
information is part
information
of our
itself.
medium.
No, you're not. You consider what you're doing is this. You're talking about the medium as though the medium is the information, and that's the category here. Okay,
That's the
so the
form of
book
the information.
itself, if information is matter, it's very simple. The book itself has to go somewhere. Matter from the book, which is the book, must go somewhere for you to receive the information, and it does not,
That's
because
Of
the
course it
impossible.
goes.
information isn't
Yeah,
going
it
anywhere.
goes. I'm
No,
trying to
it
tell you,
doesn't
it
go
goes.
anywhere.
No, it goes, man.
No, none of the book
It
goes
actually.
anywhere.
Okay, let me explain for you. So it changes its
No,
form. The
listen,
way that
when
it
you
changes
read a
its
book,
form is that you're
you're
gonna
not
read. And
the
I'm trying to
matter
explain
of
to
the
you my
book.
point.
The matter of the book is not
Except
going
it's true.
anywhere when you read a book.
Okay, I listen to you now.
Ink, paper, and glue that is the book
The,
leaves
it
the book
doesn't.
when you read a
No,
book.
no. It doesn't. It doesn't. The
Excellent.
representation squishes.
Therefore,
Yeah.
I'm here my claim out. So I'm claiming that the format information is the ink within the book. So you kind of change the format information from ink within the book to informations on the computer to chemical neurotransmitters in your brain. So when you actually read a book, the form of the information will change it from an ink to chemical neurotransmitters. And it is still a materialistic thing because it has a mass, it has medium, and all of physical meters will be
That's
applied in that.
right. That's
yeah,
called
you're
transformation
not
in information theory,
comprehending.
by the way.
Yeah, you're
That's
simply
right.
not comprehending. Okay, your claim is that the information is made of matter, and that's not true because the book doesn't go anywhere when you read it. Period. It's that simple. It's a simple
Gentlemen,
Okay.
truth. It's
are you
obvious.
guys
It's not
is
not a
this about
complicated thing to
I'm sorry.
understand.
Are you
And
guys
so
I
long
think
debating
as that's
materialism
true,
or
we know that information isn't made of matter. It's just that
So how?
simple.
So okay, let me ask you a question. Like how, for
Mm.
example, like for example, you're a Christian, right? Like probably you know some verses. I assume you're a Christian. I don't know. So if you're a
Yes.
Christian, I assume that you know some verses within the Bible. So what do you think those verses within the Bible from your brain are? What do you think those are?
I'm not. What do you mean? I don't quite.
Only.
Yes, because minds
Okay.
produce immaterial abstract
Okay.
things that
So
don't exist. Excuse me. Things that are meaningful or even functional, but don't have any mass, are not made of matter. Your mind produces them.
and how do you prove the existence of mind?
I just
Mm.
did. Minds
Uh,
produce immaterial abstract constructs. Matter can't produce that which doesn't exist
I,
physically.
but I can argue with you that the informations or whatever things it produces is not by the mind. It is produced by my, for example,
did you hear
my
that? His
belly.
argument was just
My,
begging the question.
How does matter produce something that doesn't exist physically?
I mean,
If
that's
what's
what
on the
you're claiming,
table
not
is
me.
whether or not information is
No, I'm not claiming
material,
that
that's the thing
brains
you need to
produce
show.
immaterial abstract. You're claiming that brains produce immaterial abstract. So I'm asking you,
Mhm.
how does a physical
Here's
brain produce something that doesn't exist physically?
Because we have observed it, like we have observed, well, like for example, when you are reading something or when you speak those informations out, we see changes within the chemical neurotransmitters that
No,
are actually
Black
physical.
Blackjack, listen to what he said to you. He's saying, how does the physical brain make something immaterial? You don't think it's immaterial. So you need to show
Yeah.
him, he needs to give the argument why it's immaterial. He doesn't get to
I've already
just beg
done
the
that.
question.
I've proven
No,
that the
no, you
information
haven't. You're
is
just a
immaterial
crazy old
because
man.
the book doesn't
Call
go
the
anywhere.
jabs, Jeff.
I'm sorry, when you read a book, the matter which is the book goes nowhere because information isn't made of matter. It's very simple. It just refutes you. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
see,
So if let's say I agree
You
with
just
you,
refuse to
and let's
accept
say
science of information theory because
okay,
you're a
let's
dumbass
assume
atheist.
okay, let's assume I agree with you. Let's assume I agree with you, and the mind is the source for those kind of things. So how do you prove the existence of mind? Because I can't believe you based on the informations.
Well, notice I asked you to tell us how something physical is able to
But,
bring into being
okay, I
something
don't
that
know.
doesn't exist physically, and you didn't even address it. You
Okay,
just said, "Look, we have brains that are active." That's not an answer to the
okay.
metaphysics. Okay,
Okay, I'm a simple person. I didn't know like how does that happen. I honestly didn't know. Can you please prove to me the existence of mind?
I've already done that. This will be the second time I've addressed it. Minds produce things that don't are meaningful or even functional, such as an algorithm that don't have any mass, take up any space. They are not made of matter. They are immaterial.
Yeah, but
Mind, immaterial cause, immaterial product. Material product activity, material results. Right?
yeah,
Neff.
that's
Then,
What
that's
would
your
you
logical
say?
thinking.
yeah.
Neff. What would
Yes,
you
go on.
say? What would you say if someone said information itself? Okay, as like whatever, a sound wave or whatever it is. It's not meaningful in itself. Meaning only arises once, like meaning is a feature of brains, right? Brains can derive meaning. And once the brain comes into contact with that information, meaning is there.
Yeah, I'd say that's irrational to believe that matter has sentience and understands meaning of anything, no matter how complexly you arrange it or how much of you have. Okay? So a door, for example, we don't consider a door sentient, but the evolutionist has to think that more complexly you arrange matter somewhere in that process. Once it gets complex enough, somehow matter now it takes on the ability to produce something that has meaning and doesn't even exist physically. It's an irrational view. It's simply denialism of what's logical because atheism is an
Yeah. So
irrational
you're
view.
using logic here to prove yourself, but logic is not in evidence. Do you know why? Because that's just your thought. You need that empirical evidence to prove to
So,
me that the mind exists. Not by logic, man. You have to prove it by observation, by experimentation. Do you have anything like that,
yeah,
or
we
any
have
kind of study?
we've got experience. Doctors experience patients who were able to observe surgical procedures when their brain is flatlined and had all the blood sucked out of them, and they have no
And
thinking.
did they see the
So
mind?
they observe procedures in the surgery room, things that don't normally occur, and then they tell their doctor about it. This has happened
Wh-
numerous times.
wh-
There's a really good
So,
knockdown for this example, but I'll let you work through it.
but the simple bottom line is information is an immaterial abstract. DNA is a package of the most complex information that exists. And it
So
prescribes all the
your
features of things.
evidence are some doctors.
And
Your evidence are some doctors.
this itself proves intelligent design by itself.
I
Not
think
mentioning the other things that do, but this fact alone proves intelligent design.
Well, you guys aren't talking about intelligent design. You're talking about whether or not the mind is material.
No,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
subject was about intelligent design, and they're trying to move the goalpost off to this, that, and the other because they can't accept that intelligent
Oh, sorry.
design.
Was that the original topic? I'm sorry.
Yes, it was.
No, we were not talking about the intelligent designs. We were talking about information and why informations are not
We were
materialistic.
talking
it
about
did. It started
information
with
because
an ID.
we were
It
talking
started with
about
things.
intelligent design. And I used information and DNA as an example of proof of intelligent design. And the atheists then tried to move the goalpost to this, that, and the other, trying to
So,
define,
my question
trying
is
One
to
of
this.
deny the
My question
the
is,
20th century discoveries that life is in
Nephilim,
fact
does
designed.
intelligent design mean that something has the quality or the attribute of being intelligently designed, or does
Well,
it just mean that it
naturally.
was, yeah, or does it
Well,
mean that it was
naturally.
made by something intelligent?
Well, for example, information proves that it's made by an intelligence because it's an immaterial abstract construct, and material processes can't produce that which does exist, especially that which doesn't exist physically and has meaning. Right?
My question is,
That's fun.
what observations do you make of ordinary phenomena that lend you to the idea that something is intelligent?
Design inference. Well, things that design inference is had by examining what things that are complexly specified for a purpose or that have function. That's a hallmark of design. When we find all the parts of a stopwatch, we can assume they're designed to the parts by looking at them. Everyone would assume they're designed, but we can't assume a stopwatch is designed because it's not assembled. But if we assemble those components, we see that they work they are integrated. They depend upon each other. They're interdependent with each other, and they produce a complex process that results in function. That's a hallmark of design. A blob of jelly on a piece of toast doesn't tell us it's designed. It's just a blob of jelly there. But when we
So
examine the DNA
anytime
of
that we
the
have,
strawberry, we see that the
anytime that
strawberry
we
was
have,
designed.
just so I understand you, right? Anytime that we have a system or like a phenomena that consists of multiple integrated and interdependent parts, this is evidence of intelligent design.
It is, absolutely. Function, anything functional is an evidence of intelligent design. Things happen, water flows down a creek, rocks roll down a hill. Not designed. Now, the laws of physics that make that possible are designed, but the process is just a natural one. Okay, but when you see
Okay.
water flowing down through a trough that turns a wheel, that turns a grinder, that turns flour into powder, now you see evidence of design. There's a mechanism designed with interdependent components which have a purpose. That implies design.
Okay,
It's not hard to comprehend.
my only would be: do you happen to have some sort of argument that shows the necessity of an intelligent designer when you have a complex graded system?
Say that again. Is there anything that that
Is
demonstrates
there
the
an argument?
designer?
Is there an argument for the necessity of an intelligent designer?
Yes, function. Anything functional necessarily requires a designer.
Oh, that would be
So
like the first premise.
Things that happen don't have to have a designer. Things that are functional. A function is something prescribed. Anything
Can we can,
functional is
can we
prescribed.
investigate that premise there? That anything that has a function must have been designed.
Well, you're
Um,
welcome to. In the
don't you
yeah,
think that
meantime,
it,
I'm going to
and
show
then
you an example in the text chat of a microscopic machine in the cell that demonstrates life is in fact designed. This is the machinery that duplicates the DNA molecule. It takes just a moment to upload. It copies the DNA molecule forward on one strand and backward on the other. The turbine is greatly slowed down. The DNA molecule strand is spinning at the speed of the turbine of a jet engine as it comes out of this machine in real
Oh, the
time.
transcriptosome.
Yes, yes. It's
yeah.
mechanical components that operate in unison in a prescribed pattern in order with mechanical features in order to copy the information content of the DNA. It does
Yeah.
this at astonishing
I,
speed.
I,
What you're seeing is greatly, greatly slowed down. It goes way faster than that. Okay, it would be a blur if you could watch it in real time. A blur.
do you think the designer? Do you think the designer also is designed, since it has a function?
No, because I believe the designer is God, and God has no cause.
So like the God is not functional.
No, it's just that he's not designed. He doesn't have a cause.
you're saying he's
He
not
always
caused,
yeah.
and I can even grant you that for this conversation.
Yeah, I
But one
understand
thing
that, but like, does he have a function, man? So the cause is not the function. The function is something different, I believe.
He's
So
not designed, so he doesn't need a function.
sorry, I'm
uh,
understanding function to just be what something does or what one's purpose is, and I can grant that definition. But my question is that why can't things exist which were not caused but also have a function?
Because function is prescribed. There must be a mind to prescribe.
But if it is a necessary fact that anything that has a function must have been prescribed, right?
Yes.
Then presumably, if God has a function, then the other
God
lad is
doesn't have
correct.
a function.
Then God.
He's not a
Uh,
designed machine. He's not a designed component. Function is a property of design.
but like the problem is like you're trying to impose a fact here without approving the most important point, which is why the designer doesn't have a design
Oh,
and
I've
why
got
he's not functional.
countless evidences for the existence of God. As you know, that's a whole other world of argument. Okay,
oh, I'm sorry. So there
serious
seems to be
lines
some
of
weird.
evidence.
There seems
Okay,
to be
I'm just
Uh,
pointing out.
yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just pointing out that 20th century biology has verified life is designed. The technology we've discovered in living things down at the molecular level, the information content of DNA, the complex specificity of it, the algorithms, the linguistics properties, the logic gate functions, it's software more complex than that of Microsoft Windows. Vastly more complex and more efficient than Microsoft Windows, right?
Uh
And
huh.
these things have verified for us that life is designed.
So
that's
Astonishing
really that
so
that's really
my
interesting.
so real quickly, I just want to understand what purpose means on your account, because to me something can have a purpose, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the purpose was decided for it.
No, that's not true. That doesn't follow logically. A purpose is planned
I can't think of
by
any sort
necessity.
of I can't think of any sort of phenomenon whereby we ascribe a purpose which isn't entirely post hoc. For example, we observe, for example, like under the microscope, the cells they have like organelles, and these organelles do something, and we look and we see that it does it with some regularity, and then we posit, well, this must be the function or the purpose of that organelle, and so
We're
I
not
don't see why
assigning
we
it.
can't.
We're discovering it. We're not assigning the purpose. We discover the purpose. Can you name for me any machine which is not designed?
No.
Okay. There are 20,000 different kinds of machines in your cells. 20,000
Yeah.
Sure,
different kinds
Wait,
of
we can
sure,
machines.
but
describe
I
purpose
think this is
without it being
I
ad
think this is
hoc.
well, I think the difference here is that the use of machine when we're talking about the cells or cellular structures is metaphorical. We're using it symbolically. We're
It's not
calling it a
metaphorical.
machine, but it isn't a machine
It
in the
actually
sort of
is.
conventional sense. No, it's
It
not.
truly is. It comprises of they are comprised of numerous mechanical components that operate in a sequence, specified sequence that produce an intended product. And
Sure, but I
they're in
think what's
fact the
under
component. Let me
contention.
finish, sir, please.
Sure, sure.
The components of that machine are prescribed. There's an instruction manual on how to make those components. That's in the DNA. This is how you make this protein that is the lever on this machine. This is how you make this protein, which is the receiver of the lever on that machine. This is how you produce the protein that is the hinge on the lever of that machine. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, it's
What you're
prescribed.
doing, yeah, what you're doing is
Okay,
describing the function of a given thing, but nowhere in there
right.
does the specification of function seem to necessarily someone, right,
It does.
prescribing that.
It's the dependency of the one component upon the other which demonstrates that they were designed to work together. They have
Sure,
no
but
function outside of each other. So
mutual
the
dependency
proteins,
does
for
mutual
example,
dependence.
give me more than 2 seconds before you talk.
Sure.
How about
Okay.
that? Right? The proteins that make up topoisomerase are not useful to the cell anywhere else. They're not used by the cell anywhere else. Those proteins are useful only for topoisomerase. That's it. No other thing in the cell uses that protein
That's
except
really interesting. That
topoisomerase. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And it's not just one protein. It's a whole series of them. All right, that work together. So this is the design. The intended purpose was that these specific proteins, which are not useful anywhere else in the cell, they're trash if they're floating freely in the cell. Trash unless they're comprised of
I think
topoisomerase, which
yeah,
is a
but I think
machine. The
but
machine does this. It prevents knots from developing in DNA.
I
And they
believe
will and naturally develop. And so what this machine does is it clamps the DNA and it cuts one strand, it hooks around it, then clamps it. Then it spins that strand around itself to the other side and then closes over it again and reassembles it and then releases from the molecule and goes away. So
right.
it fixes a twist in the DNA molecule by cutting it, flipping the DNA molecule and reassembling the strand that it broke before, and then it goes away. So that's just one. That's a relatively simple one compared to some of the much more
Yes,
complex.
and I understand I understand perfectly, but I think what you said illustrates why I have difficulty with your machine analog when it comes to cells versus things like planes. And the reason why is because when it comes to things like planes or computers, we have what's called an intentional account. So we say that these things are prescribed a function by the lights of the fact that we have an intentional account of the maker or the creator. I don't think we can say the same thing about the cellular apparatus.
Well, we have the complexly specified prescriptive, functional, algorithmic, linguistic, semiotic, uh, logic gate functioning, forward and reverse reading, strand hopping, stuff correcting information that's highly compressed in the DNA that prescribes how to assemble that. So yeah, we have an instruction manual.
uh, really
I think
interesting your take on.
this is miles different from saying that an agent or something agentic in its
So
nature
all you're
prescribes
saying to
it.
me is if I found a book on how to assemble a radio using transistors, capacitors, reducers, and potentiometers and other components, and it prescribes a specific order on how to assemble those components, how to make each
Uh,
of those components, you're telling me that that's not going to give you the inference of design. That's what
That's
I'm
not
hearing.
what I'm saying, and here's why. Because the
That
book
is what
yes,
you're
contains
saying.
words and sentences, language,
That is what
linguistics,
you're
meaning
saying.
that there are present propositional content. In the cells, there is no propositional content. So
Oh,
you're
that's not
really
true.
you're using an analogy here, but in reality, our cells don't contain language.
No, they do. They actually do. DNA is a language. In fact, it possesses linguistics more complex than that of Zipf's law of linguistics, and more grammar more complex than that of any spoken human language in the world. That's a discovery by the Karolinska Institute, 2016. Okay, so yes, it does. DNA actually possesses punctuation, in fact. Say, for example, I'll give you an example. Sentences start with a capital letter. The capital letter's purpose is to tell you this is the beginning of a sentence. DNA possesses things like that. There are codes at the beginning of sequences of information that say, this is where the beginning of the sequence is. This starts right here. That's a capital letter. There are periods in DNA as well. There are sequences of base pairs at the end that, when read together, produce a period. In other words, it tells the machinery of the cell, this is where the sequence of information you're reading stops, right here. This is the end of it. Stop reading right now. That you got the information. Disassemble. You're done. And there are hyphen. There are parentheses. There are question marks. There are not question marks, but there are exclamation points. There is punctuation in grammar and in DNA. It is a coded language.
I apologize because I don't want to accuse anybody of bad faith, but I do think that it's a little bit bad faith to suggest that when we look under a microscope at DNA or genetic material, that what we're seeing is sentences. Because propositions, to my understanding, are going to be sentences expressed in ordinary language that can be true or false. We don't see that in our cells. And so the idea that there are instructions that are written and that our like cells have like this sort of language, I think is just metaphorical language usage. And it doesn't at all speak to this greater point of there being a prescriber, a creator that has written those instructions somewhere. I think instead what
No,
we're doing is creating a functional description and using ordinary language symbols like letters, for instance, to represent the various parameters of the system that we're trying to describe.
that's not exactly true. And it's not true at all. In fact, um, even the secular camp acknowledges that DNA is a language. They just can't they have to be in accept this because it's what simple biology has discovered. They're going to turn around and say, "Oh yeah, but it evolved," and they're not going to tell you how because they don't have a clue. In the text chat, I'm providing secular sources that demonstrate it's well acknowledged that DNA is a language, an encoded digital language.
I think
Yeah,
that what
like,
you could
can I
say
ask, do
is
you think all the DNA is functional? Do you think every single DNA is functional?
So here's
Oh,
another
that's a
example.
sore subject for
The
Neff. He doesn't want
linguistics
to
of
talk about this
DNA,
one.
words, sentences, phonetics, semantics, and I could give countless other sources. Okay, that's just
Look, it's
a
fine to
couple.
say DNA is a code. It's fine to say DNA is a language. But the point Neff needs to show, okay, it's a code, it's a language. Well, why can't it come about naturally? What's the argument?
I've
Like,
already explained that.
no, you didn't.
Yeah, we
You're just a
talked
crazy
about
old man.
yeah, we talked about that
Stop
30
with the
minutes ago.
jabs.
Yeah,
Well,
we
here's the
talked about
thing.
that.
I would like, there is an interesting thing that you say that every single thing in this universe or in this life, whatever, is functional, and because it is functional, it is actually it needs to have a creator or a designer. But the question is, do you think that every single thing that is functional in this world has to be, especially if it's not created by human beings?
I don't sure I understood the question. Do I have to believe that what is if it's not created by human beings?
For example, the human body is not created by a human being. I believe that's what you believe. So
Not by human
if
beings. That's correct.
yeah, so do you think the things that are not created by human beings has to be perfect?
No. Uh,
No.
there is such thing as the fall, and things have been going downhill ever since, and mutations accruing in our DNA is one of the proofs of that. In the Tide Chat, I provided a secular source, the digital code of DNA. The discovery of the structure of DNA transformed biology profoundly, catalyzing the sequencing of the human genome and the engendering of a new era of vision of biological information science. So the list goes on of sources that
Okay.
they acknowledge.
So
DNA
here
is
we go,
code,
Neff.
digital,
It's a
it's
code.
information, it's complexly specified information, it's
Okay, so it's
algorithmic.
a code. So how do you get from code to must be designed by a
Code
creator?
is,
The problem
well,
here
it's
that
really
that's a
simple.
failure. That's the
It's
God is a
really,
failure. You're telling
it's
me that the
really
God is a
simple.
failure.
Well, no, he can just say the fall
It,
happens and not everything's
it's,
perfect. It's not a big
it's
deal.
really simple. Codes require a coder, just like
Okay, so
art requires an
what's the
artist.
argument for that?
Uh,
Oh my Lord, this boy.
Yeah, so what's the argument that
It's
if
both.
there's a code, it
Okay.
comes from a mind? Yeah, go ahead.
Show us code that didn't have a mind.
Yeah, DNA.
No, you're assuming you're asserting it. Show us any example of code that didn't have a coder?
Well, all the other examples of codes are just ones that we know that humans created. So I don't see how that works. Are you trying to
Right.
give
So
are you trying to give an
all
induction?
those that we observe, all
Oh, so you are
examples
trying to give an
of
induction.
create,
Okay. So I'll tell you why that
all
induction is
known
very weak.
examples of code were created, right? The DNA is the only example that we know of that of code that we
Gotcha.
have not observed be created.
Gotcha. So
Okay.
you're trying to
Right.
give an
Right.
induction. Okay. Let's see if that
So,
induction
so
holds
excuse me,
water.
you're talking over me again. That's all you ever do?
You're just
Okay.
going on and on.
I'm going to
Uh,
mute you, Jeff.
uh,
I'm done with you.
but like, don't you
Okay.
think that we can create DNA?
You're just too rude, dude.
And that's not about
You're
that
too
back.
triggered. You're too
He's
burned out
talking about
by
like the
your godless
information
worldview
or the DNA
being
code, not
refuted
like
by modern
creating DNA.
biological science. I'm sorry. You just can't handle yourself.
Look, so
You want to
calm down. So
rehash
like what
the
Neff
things
is,
over
why
and
are you
over.
still man
You ask,
Neff?
what's the evidence for this? I show you the evidence. We talk about it
Chill
for
with
20
meta,
minutes.
dude.
What's
Just
the
calm
evidence for
down.
this? I explain it to you. We talk about it for 30 minutes. What's the
Just calm
evidence
down,
for this?
man.
I explain it. We
It's
talk
gonna
about
be
it for 40 minutes. And then an hour and a half later, you want to go back to the first thing and pretend you never heard an answer to it. And it's just ridiculous. I'm just burned out on your methodology. You just can't accept anything you're told or taught about these things because they refute your godless worldview. And it's just old to
I
hear you
think
go backtrack like a dog to its vomit, back to the same thing that I've refuted for you
let's settle down
for
a little bit, right?
an hour and 10
Everybody
minutes
you're
ago.
speaking with right now accepts what you're saying about DNA, the description that you provided, and that it's a code that we can't attribute to just any agent just making the code, okay? But still, we're left with a void essentially until you can provide us an argument where something greater was the one that prescribed that code.
Well, I already have. I've said all known examples of code. I have a coder. We don't know. We've never observed code to arise naturally. It's
Yeah, I
only been
believe
observed. Excuse me, I'm still speaking, son. We only observe code to arise by coders. Okay. Now, if you want to say that code can arise without a coder, where have we ever observed this occur?
so. What's under contention is whether or not our observation that DNA didn't have an agentic, intelligent
No,
coder is
it
the
comes
case.
down to where have we ever observed code come from a non-coder?
This
Where?
is, I believe, the rudimentary philosophic example of like the white
That's the
swan, right?
problem.
All swans are white, right? Because all the swans that we've seen are white. It can't be the case that one just happens to be black. So here, there's really no argument. You're just saying that we've seen a bunch of examples where it happens to be the
Mhm.
case that it's been designed. Why is it the case that necessarily it cannot be undesigned?
No, it's called inference, and this is how science works. We gain an inference about a thing by making observation, study, and reflection. And the inference is code requires a coder because all codes that we have observed being produced or come into being, we can trace to a coder. Okay.
Okay, do you
So
think
you need
mutations?
to, if you're going to say DNA could be produced by natural processes, then you have to be able to give us an inference that that's true by showing us examples of
Yeah,
code that arises without a code.
I can easily
And
give you an
that you
example.
cannot, and that you cannot
Listen,
do.
I can no, that's actually easy, very easy to give you an example of how DNA is created from the scratch. It's very easy. You can just
Oh,
go to
really?
a lab and yeah, of course,
Okay.
you can go
Yeah,
to a
let's
lab
hear
and
that. What is the
look underneath
example?
the microscope and look from the primary materials that it creates DNA. But the problem here is that your claim cannot be proven. Why? Because you're
Wait.
telling
No, no,
me,
no,
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 no.
let me
You
continue. You're
said
telling
we
me
can.
that the guy that
You
created
said
the
there's an
DNA,
example. You said there's an example in the
yeah,
laboratory. What example? You didn't tell us.
it's very easy to create DNA. You just bring the primary materials and put them in the same
No,
uh,
it's not easy to
dish or
create
whatever.
DNA. No,
It's
it's
very
not
easy,
easy.
man.
No, it's
It's a
not
no.
very easy. It's outrageously difficult to create an RNA from scratch. Outrageously difficult. Scientists use materials that have been
Okay.
purified by. I'm explaining it to you.
Where does it say?
I'm explaining it to you. Just to create an RNA molecule, not DNA. To create from scratch in the laboratory an RNA molecule, which scientists can do, uh, requires the following. They have to use purified materials that are ridiculously expensive that come from a lab, a plant, where they're purified and then filtered and purified and filtered and purified dozens of times to get this stuff super, super fine cured. Okay.
Filtering from
They
what?
spend, I'm not explaining, I'm not done. Then they buy that stuff at outrageous prices. Okay, and then they use it in a lab. They have to set the liquid to be exactly the right pH level and the temperature to be exactly right, and they have to try to put things together in exactly the right order. And guess what? Almost got it. Failed. Throw it down the sink. Get a new container and try it again. Try again. Oops, that failed. Throw it out. Oops, that failed. Throw it out. Do this dozens of times. Look, we finally, after all this time, months, we got ourselves an RNA. We made it happen with
That's not true.
intelligent designers. So
No, that's not true.
so
You
your
are just
example is self-refuting because you said it was easy. It's not. It's terribly difficult for experts to do, and it requires intelligence. By the way,
well, in
you're giving
comparison,
an example of something that was done by intelligent agents and trying to use that as an argument that nature can do it. How dumb was that?
well, no, actually, you're lying here. You do claim that scientists do 1, 2, 3. You've never provided any evidence to us. You're just telling that they are doing like that. But I can tell you
Well,
that
Hey,
we have a
whatever
Blackjack.
processes.
biologists acknowledge
We have
that.
a passages that I can. There is a proven that I can bring it to you now. That
Blackjack.
they can synthesize, regardless of the difficulty, they can synthesize DNA and RNA from the scratch, and you can even synthesize RNA from other materials that is already synthesized within the world without the
Sure,
need of
with
without the need
difficulty,
of
with cost, and with
God.
intelligence. It's
But
Wait,
difficult. It
I
costs a
did
lot of
not want
money,
that last
and it
segment
requires
of our
intelligent
discussion
agents.
not difficult, man. It's
to
very
go
easy.
to the lab, and I really did not
It's
want
very
this to be the
difficult.
diversion away.
That's why we have a lot of drugs that are based on the DNA synthesized from the beginning.
It's very
Okay, they
difficult.
could be difficult on the people that don't know how does it work. But if you know how
No,
does it work, of course it's going to be easy to synthesize
it's
simple
not easy.
genomic
No,
drugs.
what you're saying is
If
scientifically
you have the
false.
money.
It's actually false.
If
It's difficult. Experts doing it find it difficult, and they throw their experiments out repeatedly before they get it right, and it's very expensive. So
yeah,
you're
I mean
wrong.
it's
It's
expensive.
not
It's
easy.
expensive. I can
It's
tell you it's
absolutely.
expensive,
It's
but the
not
process
easy.
itself, provided that you have the money and the materials, you can do it.
It's not
There's
easy.
no
Blackjack.
problem.
It's
I
difficult.
just wanted to, if
You
it's
said
okay with
is
you,
wrong.
like if we could put a nip in the sort of like lab experiential sort of side of things, right? Because I wanted to touch to the core of the issue, which is that Nephilim's under the impression that we can prove via analogy, essentially, that the code of human DNA must have had an intelligent designer. I think that these inferences to best explanation work when the matters of comparison have enough conceptual similarity to where an analogy between them makes the inference reasonable. But I think that DNA is unlike, in so many respects, any other code that we can think of, whether or not it was made by people, right? So when you say that all we need to do is look at computer code, for instance, or look at like a phone app or something like that, and all these are
That's not
made
a
by
good
people,
one.
that is tremendously the thing that we're talking about is tremendously different from DNA, wouldn't you say? So I can't just use inference to best explanation to explain this away. There needs to be a more robust argumentative basis for you to say that it was created. It's nowhere near the same level of complexity as like a computer program. It's much more deep than that. It's not even fully understood yet.
Dude, are
Yeah,
we still doing an
And the
atheist
problem,
here? Awful.
well,
yeah. It's
actually we understand. Actually, we understand genomes with a very deep understanding of how genetics work. That's like how we are advanced, but it's very hard to understand from the beginning or initially. It's
I'm
not
not saying that
compared.
we don't know a lot. I'm
Yeah,
saying
but
that
what
it's
I'm
not
trying,
fully and exhaustively understood.
we have actually we have really a complete understanding of how the human genome work,
no, we
and
do.
even like
Oh
the
my
genomes of
gosh,
other
this
organisms.
guy's ignorant. No, we have an understanding of how maybe 1% of it works.
Any chance we
You're
can ditch?
completely
Any
lost.
chance we can ditch the atheist talk and switch over to interfaith Christian dialogue talk?
Yeah,
No.
No,
this
I
guy
love
is
this.
completely ignorant. He
We're
says
gonna,
I
we're
don't
gonna
mean to
take
bog
everything.
like
down the room. I think it was a splendid discussion. I
what
don't really think that the intelligent design thing was argued for, you know, to the best of your ability. I think there are probably better arguments. I don't think that the analogy to code was a strong one, but I'm willing to just leave it
Well,
there.
it truly is. In the text chat, I
Leave it
put a
there,
picture. I put a
man.
picture of the comparing the regulatory
Let
network
him
of
go.
E. coli bacteria and Linux, and just shows that the Linux is ridiculously inefficient compared to a
do you
bacteria's
think?
genetics.
Do you think like the old bacteria, the ancient bacteria, or like the primitive bacteria? Do you think they have a complex system, or do you think they have a simple system of DNA? or genetic material?
There's nothing simple about DNA. I just want you to try to recognize what you
Uh,
said. Some things that are ridiculous. You said it's easy for
you know,
scientists to reproduce DNA. It's
okay.
not. It's outrageously difficult. Outrageously, it's expensive. They fail more
Do
times
you know what
than
is the
than
primary?
function.
The,
You said that we understand how the DNA works. We've got it all figured out. That's ridiculous.
do you know what is
They
the
only
primary source
understand
of
they
DNA?
only
Do you know what?
understand a very small fraction, a very, very small fraction of
Okay.
what DNA, how it functions. And
Do you know
so
what is DNA made of?
everything you've said is
Guys, if y'all are
scientifically
going to continue talking
solved.
about this stuff, please stop talking over each other.
Yeah,
Do you know what is
if
DNA made of?
everything as I was saying, everything you've said is scientifically invalid, and
Okay.
evolutionists, atheist scientists would not agree with anything that any you've
Okay.
said.
Okay. Okay. Do you know what is DNA made of?
Yes, ribose backbone comprised as the foundation for base pairs that bond to the two strands of the molecule.
Yeah. Like, what is that
And
molecule?
I'm sorry,
What is the molecule that makes up the DNA?
it's numerous molecules.
So what is it?
It,
What are those?
it's adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine, and sugar ribose.
Okay, so they are simple materials. You understand? You just combine them with each other and you make up
No,
DNA.
they're not. No, it's not. Nothing simple about it. It's terribly expensive and difficult for scientists to do it with intelligence in a laboratory, and they fail more times than succeed.
Why do you think we fail? Like, do you think we have failed to study the
Because
human
everything
genome
has to be
2007?
exactly right. The chemistry of it has to be nearly perfect for it to form. If you're
Okay.
going to try to assemble it by hand in a lab, the pH level of the liquid has to be just right, or it won't
Okay.
work. The temperature has
Okay.
to be just right, or it won't work. The materials you use must be extremely pure, or it won't work. And the process has to be in exactly the right order, or it won't work.
You
And
explain it to me. You explain it to me. I understand that concept. Like another question is,
it's
do you think that we have studied the human genome and we know every single genome within the human body or not?
there is one genome in your body,
Do you
not
think
multiple.
the humanity knows every single gene within the human genome?
Who knows it?
The humanity, humans.
No, we don't know everything about. I've explained this. We only know a
Okay.
tiny
Let me
portion of
provide an
how
evidence.
DNA functions. A tiny portion of how DNA functions. It's a 7-foot molecule encoded with billions of instructions.
And we know every single gene.
No,
Actually, the human genome was studied and it was completed.
we,
I believe by 2007, it was
that doesn't
completed.
mean we know every gene. They're
We
massive
know every single
stretches.
gene.
No, we've coded the DNA molecule, decoded it. That doesn't mean we know the genes or even
No,
what they
they
do.
didn't.
That doesn't
When you
tell us that
actually,
we know. No, I'm trying to help you understand. You're not. You really think you know a lot of stuff, but you don't know at all what you're talking about.
that's the dominating.
They're
That's called the
they're
dominating.
ma- they're massive stretches of DNA that are called tandem repeats. They're absolutely absurd looking. There's 300 A's all together in a row. What the heck does that mean?
Yeah,
And then
we
right after
understand
that
what is
is
happening.
50. All right, things like this. They're huge chunks of DNA that do this. We don't know what that does.
Of course, we
We
know, man.
infer that
We know
it
what
has
does that.
function, but we don't know what that function is yet. We don't even know what the function of most of the DNA is. I don't know where you got this cockamamie idea from, but it didn't come from science.
That's how a whole field, the human being, is about, man.
No,
That's how we base a lot of disorders
what
on, for
you're in
example.
error of is because they can decode the molecule and base pair by base pair and say A, C, C, G, T, 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 G,
Not
E.
only like that, but also they can
Doesn't mean
create
that
drugs.
stop talking over me. Doesn't mean that we know what that information does. It just means we've been able to show what the arrangement of the base pairs is going down the molecule. That's all we know. What those sequences do is a whole other thing.
That's not true.
We don't know. We only
That's you
know
don't know, but like other people know. That's you don't know, but other people know, of course, especially the one that are in genes. Of course, they
No,
understand. Like, for example, when you bring
you're
genes in a
ignorant.
specific order and you
I,
do something that is called the
I,
translation, and you will create a specific protein. And after you create that specific protein, there will be
okay.
consequences. For example, in the human body, or in the virus development, or in whatever you want to study about, man. That's how,
You're
for
very
example, we
ignorant.
understand.
This guy is so ignorant. I don't want to talk
Okay,
to
I'm
him
ignorant.
anymore about this. Really, anybody that says we know
Because
what
you
all the
fail.
DNA is doing, it's
When you
just
don't want to talk
absurd.
to somebody, you fail. That's it.
No, you need to go look it up on the internet and study and find out how astonishingly ignorant you are.
Okay, man, that's
Yeah,
called autonomy. And
All
that
things
happens
no,
only when you don't know
considered,
how to
all
talk.
things
that's
considered,
just
I
simply a
think,
fact. That's
yeah,
a
all
fact.
things considered, I'm not going to sit here and claim any mastery of the sort of biology, I don't even think for the greater point it's much needed. I'm really trying to get you, Nephilim, to provide for me why it's the more reasonable inference that it was mind as opposed to just natural processes that brought about sort of this DNA code. And